Shalom Aleichem, welcome to another episode of the Rambam's 13 Principles of Faith. I'm here with my cousin Michael, and today, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to do the 9th principle, which we are dedicating in memory of Leah Bat Masal Tov and Yoel Avraham Ben Nissim Betzivia. So, the 9th principle is faithful transmission, and that this Torah has faithfully been transmitted from Borei Olam, the Creator, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, and not from anyone else. And so it cannot be added to, and it cannot be detracted from or subtracted from, as it is said in Devarim, chapter 13, verse 1, you shall not add to it, and you shall not take away from it. And we've already elucidated this principle in the introduction to this composition. That, as we know, is from the introduction to Perek Chelek. That's the Rambam's introduction to that Perek in Sanhedrin.
So this 9th principle describes the unchanging and eternal nature of Hashem's Torah, and that it is is exactly as it was dictated to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that also no human being has the authority to add or subtract. We learned in previous episodes regarding prophecy that if a person comes and even if he fulfills all the moral character qualifications for being a prophet, if he comes and says either repeal this commandment or add, God told me to tell you that we have to add a mitzvah that is in addition to what Moshe had given, that we have to consider him a false prophet and he suffers chenek. So why does strangulation? So why does this matter? If we assume that the Torah can be changed, it would suggest that God's transmission was not complete, or it was lacking in some way, or it was temporary, in a temporary nature. But Hashem, who we know is perfect and unchanging, gives a Torah that is also the same, perfect and unchanging. If I can quote the Rabbi Yehuda Halevi in his Kuzari, he emphasizes the Torah was given as an eternal covenant. What was commanded to our ancestors is commanded to us, without addition or subtraction. Also, the Maharal of Prague explains, and I quote, the Torah is rooted in the divine itself. As Hashem is beyond change, so too must the Torah be beyond change. And as you mentioned earlier, we learn this principle from the pasuk in Devarim 13:1, which is, I quote, everything I commanded you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add to it, and you shall not subtract from it. So as I said, if we add a mitzvah, it would imply that Hashem's transmission was incomplete, and if we took away something, the same. Either way, it would be a kind of corruption of Hashem's blueprint. Rashi describes it beautifully when he says, and I quote, do not add, like placing a 5th section into the tefillin, and do not subtract, it's like removing one of the 4 compartments. Even a tiny, well-meaning addition or subtraction distorts completely the divine commandments or commands. So what about how do we sometimes, different times and different cultures, different periods of history, some people come up and they say, look, this is an old-fashioned law, or this is irrelevant now, or we have to add something. The Torah that Hashem gave us is so multidimensional that it transcends history and transcends cultures or periods of time. It's given with the full knowledge of all future events, and it speaks eternal truths that transcends time and culture. Rambam wrote in his Mishnah Torah, in the first section, Sefer Hamada, in Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah, chapter 9, Mishnah 1, and I quote, "It is clear and implicit in the Torah that it is a commandment that stands forever, without change, addition, or subtraction. Therefore, no prophet, even a true prophet, can ever introduce a new Torah or repeal an old commandment." But still, people will always come up and suggest that our religion should revise certain laws or modernize or upgrade the Torah in some way, but we have to cling to our Torah as it was given in an unchanged manner. This is expressed by Yeshaya, the prophet, who said, "The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of Hashem will stand forever." So we see that empires rise and fall, and different philosophies gain traction and then fade, but the Torah, which was transmitted through Moshe to every generation, remains living and whole and vibrant. I want to bring a couple of midrashim that describe it very beautifully. There's a midrash in Shemot Rabbah 6:1 that says, "Just as the sun and the moon are enduring, so too the Torah endures forever." Also, the midrash in Vayikra Rabbah 19:2 compares the Torah to a vineyard, and I quote, "Many kings tried to uproot it, but none succeeded." So the Torah is not fragile, it's rooted in eternity. So let's move on to the oral Torah, Torah Sheba'al Peh, and various rabbinic enactments that we know exist. For example, Netilat Yadayim was not a commandment from the Torah, it's a rabbinic enactment, but
Yeah, as we said in the previous episode, that it's a common fallacy to think that the Torah is what it is. Whatever's written in the Bible is the be-all and end-all, which is a fallacy that was perpetrated by sects like the Tzedukim, the Sadducees, or the Baitusim, I don't even know how to say Baitusim in English, but or the Karaites, who believed that there was no such thing as the oral Torah. But we mentioned in the last episode that everything, every item, in Yiddish you say pitchivka, every nuance was given at Mount Sinai, as you mentioned, witnessed by 3 million men, children. It was a national revelation. So therefore, the concept of Netilat Yadayim, the concept of like the lulav, the concept of the shofar, all of these things, whether they are written explicitly in the Torah, whether they're hinted in the Torah, whether they're not explicitly in the Torah at all, was given at Har Sinai. So that, I suppose, the most stark example of that is the tefillin. Now you look at the tefillin. The only reference to tefillin in the Torah is "Ukshatim leot aledecha vayu lototavot beinecha." You bind them on your arm and your head. So, okay, what am I binding? Tefillin. Tefillin. That's not even a Hebrew word. I think they say it's Coptic or something like that. What's that? Or Afrikaans, Afriki. I think, if I remember rightly, Rashi says. What's that word doing in the Torah? Why is that ancient language? So what does it mean? Does it say anything about the tefillin being square? or being a square box mounted on a square platform, or
Oh.
that it has to be completely black, or you have to put the straps around your, in the specific formation. It says nothing at all about that in the Torah. So you would have to come about and innovate something and expect that to be what the Torah is referring to, which is of course nonsense. That's what these different uh, sects did, and that was to their extreme detriment, because they said, "Oh, you can have the tefillin as a round thing; it doesn't have to be black." So, for sure, uh, all these nuances were given alongside the Torah, and it's called. So you can say, why is it called the oral Torah? It's written down. It's in the Mishnah. It's in the Gemara. The truth is, they were never meant to be written down. They were meant, or rather, the idea was, it was transmitted initially from a student, teacher to student, father to son, in this unbreaking chain from Har Sinai. Now, historically, when the Jewish nation was persecuted so much, they were being restricted with this practice of uh, tradition from father to son, or rabbi to student. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, made the critical decision to codify everything into a written form. But it was never like that was like uh, um, a measure that was taken as a result of persecution. So because of that, initially that oral Torah was in the form of the Mishnah. Now, the Mishnah is very terse. It's very concise in that that's exactly how it was transmitted. Imagine if the Mishnah was 10 times as long. It would be 10 times more to remember. So it's codified in a very short form. Now, later on in history, it was expanded into the Gemara, the Talmud, where there are discussions related in the Gemara between different Amoraim. Those are the rabbis of the Gemara, the Talmud, who discuss back and forth. So that's how we get the corpus of the oral Torah codified. Now, I would add, anyone who does not um, accept that this Torah Shabbat Peh in the form of the Mishnah and the Gemara and all the poskim and Shulchan Aruch and everything is not part of the Torah, it's some type of external text, is a heretic. Okay, so this is, so if you put that chink in the armor, you say that this is not divinely inspired, you're causing a break in the tradition, and that's where everything goes pear-shaped, for want of a better phrase. So
very true. Very good. So let's move on now to the future. We understand what is the past and what is the present, and how we handle this concept of the eternality and immutability of the commandments. But what about the times of Mashiach? What's going to happen then? Rambam teaches in his Mishnah Torah, Hilchot Malachim 11, Mishnah 1, Halacha 1, and I quote, "The King Mashiach will arise and restore the kingdom of David to its former glory. He will build the temple, gather the exiles of Israel, and reinstate all the laws as they were before. Sacrifices will be offered, sabbatical years and jubilees will be observed according to their commandments." So in other words, even when Mashiach comes, the Torah will not be replaced. It won't be updated for this new era that we anticipate. Rather, the Torah will be restored and fulfilled in its original complete manner. So Mashiach will be a restorer and not a reformer. It's important to understand that. He won't cancel any mitzvot. He won't modernize the Torah for this new generation. Instead, he's going to guide the world to deeper faithfulness. And perhaps at that stage, our consciousness would be maybe somehow enlightened, and we'll be able to understand everything in a deeper way, and a new layer of the Torah and its commandments will be revealed to that generation. Please
Which was
God.
always there. Remember, it's just
Yes,
been
is there exactly?
revealed,
It's
yeah.
uncovering
That's why the
or
brain,
blossoming.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Very
brain
true.
has a large capacity which is
Yeah,
not,
it's supposedly
yeah,
unused. It's not
yeah,
unused. It's waiting to be unlocked. And yeah.
unlocked. That's a good word.
So, quote from Rambam regarding this in Igeret Teman, his treatise. Anyone who suggests the Torah will be nullified in the days of Mashiach denies the Torah itself. So, very important. The miracles of redemption won't cancel the law. They will reveal deeper beauty and harmony already hidden within it, as you said. Prophecy, we see this in Yeshaya prophesied, and I quote from Yeshaya 11:9, the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea. This doesn't mean that Torah will change, it just means we'll understand it in a deeper way, and barriers of wisdom will be broken down and fall away.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Midrash I'd like to bring from Tanchuma Netzavim 1, and I quote, in the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will sit and teach Torah to the righteous, and a new light will shine forth from Zion. So this new light is not a new Torah, it's the old Torah that will be further illuminated with greater clarity and depth. I mentioned a philosopher, Manly P. Hall, who also talks about the concept of universal law and describes it very well, and I quote him, the laws of God are not revised to suit the times. Rather, the times must rise to meet the law.
That actually reminds me of something that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, of blessed memory, he said that there is an established requirement for any Jew, which actually will be recalled when, after 120 years, a Jew dies, he will be asked this question. So the requirement is Kovea itim la Torah. We need to fix times for Torah. It doesn't say what the level of that Torah is. It just says you need to fix times. You have to have certain times of the day or the night that you have when you learn, and that's it. Now, after 120 years, they'll ask you, did you fix times for Torah? But the Rebbe says like this. He says something very profound. He says, Kovea itim la Torah v'lo kovea Torah leitim. You should fix times for Torah, and then he makes a play on the words, but don't fix the Torah for the times. So in other words, as you said numerous times, the Torah is completely immutable. It doesn't warrant that we come and say, oh no, we're now a modern generation, we've embraced things in a different way with technology, so therefore we need to change the Torah to fit with the time. No. You fix the times according to the Torah. A very quick example, this is the most obvious example I can think of. People will come and I don't know if erroneously or wickedly, I don't know which word to apply, they would say that the Torah forbade eating pig. Yeah, eating pig. And they come along and they say, well, that was then, in biblical times. Nowadays, because now the pig is a clean animal, we know what to feed it. It doesn't give off diseases as it used to be, so therefore it's permitted. Of course, this is a perfect example of changing the Torah to fit in with the times, which is so. That's why we have our Rabbanim, we have our Gedolei Hador, our Torah leaders who show us, who look at the Torah and see how the Torah speaks about these current events, and like you said, events that have yet to occur, because only the divine God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, could have written the Torah that it encompasses the entire timeline of
History.
everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
very true. Very true. So yeah, so these immutable, eternal laws, it is worth for us to walk in harmony with them rather than in any way against them, because they underpin everything that exists. As the prophet Micah said, and I quote, "He has told you, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God."
הצליח ללכת עם אלוקיך.
So we have to have the courage to walk like this and not tempted to rewrite any laws, but we just have to uncover its depth, not by modernizing the truth, but being modern seekers of ancient eternal truths. And I'm going to finish with a quote from Psalms 19:8, Torah Hashem Tamima, the Torah of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. And that perfection doesn't need improvement, all it needs is our embrace. And yeah, that's the end of the ninth principle.
That's beautiful. What an ending. That's beautifully put, Michael. Thank you very, very much for that. Okay, that concludes the ninth principle. So next time, Bezrat Hashem will be back with number 10. Until then, Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen.